I would like to thank Underwood's Vauxhall in Colchester for lending me these two cars. They're both Vauxhall Corsas and they look more or less identical. They're different colours, but underneath this one you have a petrol engine and this one has a battery and an electric motor. The question is though, which one costs more to run? And by how much? I'm starting with the petrol, but I'm going to drive both cars over the exact same route. 20 minutes at 70 miles per hour, 20 minutes out of town with speeds varying from 30 to 60 miles per hour, and 20 minutes in town where I'll be lucky to get 30 miles per hour. Then I'll tally up how much it costs to charge or fuel each car per mile, but also I'll include the cost of buying the car, servicing it, and taxing it. To make the test as fair as possible, I'm even going to check the tyre pressures before I drive each car and make sure they're set as per the owner's manual. This one is good. However, this one needs a bit more air. I'm just about to go onto the slip road for a 70-mile-an-hour drive. I'm going to reset the trip computer. I'm going to try and drive within the speed limits, but using the speed limits as much as I can. So I'm resetting the trip computer now. There we are, that's done. 70 miles an hour for 20 minutes. Let's see what economy it gets. The Petrol Vauxhall Corsa is surprisingly refined at motorway speeds. If you're interested in a detailed review on this car, I'll leave a link to one in the top right hand corner of your screen. I'm coming to the end of the 20 minutes now, doing 70 miles an hour or as close to 70 as I could. I've done 18 miles but average 62 miles per hour. It's quite hard to stay at 70 all the time, but I've got 50.3 miles per gallon. Just coming up to a roundabout now where I'm going to turn right, and then I'm going to start the out of town route with speed limits varying from 30 to 60 miles per hour. Coming off this roundabout now to start the out of town route. Let's reset the trip computer. Whoops, that's the wrong one. That's the windscreen wipers. And is it going to reset? There we go, reset. And we'll start this route, do it for 20 minutes and see what the results are. 3 minutes into the out of town roads now. I'm on a 60 mile per hour road. I'm getting 47 miles per gallon. And I'm not trying to drive quickly, I'm not trying to burn fuel, but also I'm not trying to be super economical either. I'm just trying to drive comfortably within the speed limit, but also making some progress too. Just finishing the out of town roads, done mostly 40 and 60 roads, coming into a 30 now where I'll start the urban roads. What have I got? 35 miles per hour average, 47 miles per gallon, and I did 9 miles. So I'll reset this now. There we are, and I'm going to start the town route. Only 30 mile per hour speed limits, and there's going to be plenty of places where I'm not going to be able to do that because of parked cars like I've got coming up here, traffic lights and roundabouts, etc. For the town driving, I'm leaving the stop-start system on, although it doesn't appear to be turning the engine off at the moment. It just flashes a green light up here to say it can't work. Most of it is 30, but there is a little bit of 20 that I'm doing now. So far, I've done about 8 minutes, so 12 minutes left. I'm getting an impressive nearly 41 miles per gallon, even though I'm driving so slowly. I'm quite impressed with that. Finished the 20 minutes of urban driving. It was actually just over 20 minutes. I did 4 miles, averaged 15 miles per hour, and I got 37.6 miles per gallon. I was actually stuck at a level crossing for a little while, although I wasn't going over the level crossing. I tried to avoid that on my route. The tailback that went all the way down the road still affected me, so I ended up taking a couple more minutes than I was anticipating. So on the 70 mile per hour roads, this car did 14.9 pence per mile. That's assuming petrol is £1.65 per litre. On the out of town roads, which had speed limits between 30 and 60 miles per hour, it did 15.9 pence per mile. And in town, when I was usually doing less than 30 miles per hour, it did 19.9 pence per mile. In the electric car now, just about to go onto the 70-mile-per-hour road. Resetting the trip computer now. There it is, reset. I'm not in sport mode or eco mode, I'm in normal mode, and I'm going to try and drive it exactly as I was driving the petrol car. I'm going to try and stay at 70 miles per hour as much as I can on this road, although I can't help if I'm stuck behind someone. Coming to the end of the 70 mile per hour route now, my average speed has been 61 miles per hour. I think that's similar to last time. I've achieved 3.3 miles per kilowatt hour, and I've done a total of 19 miles. I'm going to go right at this roundabout and start the out of town route with speed limits varying from 30 miles per hour to 60 miles per hour. And I'll reset the computer once I have a chance, once I leave this roundabout. So there we go, leaving here, hold down the button. Is it going to reset? There it is. Let's see how it does. I think it's important for me to note that this video isn't about which car is greener. That's not why I'm making this video. I'm trying to find out how much more it costs to run an electric car over a petrol car. What is the margin? I'm fairly certain the electric car is going to come out being more expensive, but by how much? I guess we'll have to find out at the end of the video when I'll tally up the results. I'm going to assume the car is kept for 3 years, bought new, and that the owner of the car has done 10,000 miles per year. I just got stuck in some traffic on this out of town road and I was waiting for 10 minutes. The road was not moving, but this car doesn't have a petrol engine that's idling and burning fuel in the background whilst I'm waiting, so it shouldn't impact the efficiency of the test too much. And in fact, whilst I was waiting, after waiting for a little while, I just turned the car off because I understood that sitting there with the air conditioning on was using some electricity, and that would affect the efficiency. So hopefully the results are still going to be fair. It is going to be longer than 20 minutes, but I'm still driving for 20 minutes and I'm doing the same distance, driving at about the same speeds. When it comes to how they handle, they're actually quite different. I would say they're equally as good, just in different ways. The electric car feels more planted and stable, but the petrol car feels a bit more agile and nimble. Coming to the end of the country roads now, and how far have I done? 9 miles. Hopefully that is very similar to last time because I've done the same route. I've achieved 4.3 miles per kilowatt hour and my average speed has been 27 miles per hour. Going to reset the trip computer now and start the urban drive route. There you go, reset. A 30 mile an hour road, a little bit of 20, but mostly 30 mile per hour speed limits on this route. Now I'm actually testing the electric car at 3 o'clock, between 3 and 4 o'clock, which you'd think is a bit unfair considering I tested the petrol car during the quieter hours. However, it's the 24th of October 2022, and this week the kids aren't at school, so at the moment traffic seems about the same. Apart from that mishap on the out of town roads, seems about as busy as it was earlier when I was driving the petrol car. Finished the urban route now and my average speed has been 14 miles per hour. I've achieved 4.5 miles per kilowatt hour, although at one point that was at 5 before I went up the hill, and I've done a total of 5 miles. I have some figures for you. It's not that simple with the electric car because depending on where you charge it, well, the price varies greatly. I'm going to use 3 rates. My home nighttime rate, which is 15 pence per kilowatt hour. A typical price to charge at the side of the street using a street side charger, which is about 49 pence per kilowatt hour at the moment, and a rapid charger, which is 69 pence per kilowatt hour. I know prices vary depending where you go, but it's the 24th of October 2022, and as far as I can tell, that seems to be, well, they seem to be normal rates for now. You can get more expensive over there, the Porsche garage, rapid charger, 85 pence per kilowatt hour, and that's actually the closest rapid charger to me. In fact, it's probably the closest usable charger for me. Here we go. So 70 miles per hour, 3.3 miles per kilowatt hour. Charging at home at night time, 4.5 pence per mile. Charging at the side of the street, 14.8 pence per mile. Using a rapid charger, 20.9 pence per mile. Now for driving out of town between 30 and 60 miles per hour. Charging at home at night, 3.5 pence per mile. Charging at the side of the street, 11.4 pence per mile. And using a rapid charger, 16 pence per mile. And doing town driving, mostly urban driving, I got 4.5 miles per kilowatt hour. So charging at home, that's 3.3 pence per mile. Charging at the side of the road is 10.9 pence per mile. And using a rapid charger is 15.3 pence per mile. Bear in mind that the charging at the side of the road rate isn't necessarily just at the side of the road. That is for a slow charger. They can be in car parks as well. If you have solar panels on your house, you can charge for free during the day when they work. Obviously, they don't work at night. It all depends on your circumstances as to whether or not an electric car makes sense and how much it costs. For me, it doesn't make sense because the closest usable charger for me is that one at the Porsche garage, 4.5 miles away. So I can't like park up and even walk home. I've got to sit with the car, and it's 85 pence per kilowatt hour. There's one at Tesco, which is a 45-minute walk away, but you can only use that when you're shopping at Tesco. It's actually free. But how long am I going to spend shopping at Tesco? So for me, at the moment, an electric car is incredibly expensive and not practical. But for other people, it could make a lot of sense. But there's a big price difference there. Charging at home, driving around town, 3.3 pence per mile. But using a rapid charger, 15.3 pence per mile. Big difference. So here are the figures laid out for you. I've used 3 cars for this. Both the cars I drove, the electric, which is automatic, all electric cars are, and the petrol manual. But I've also included the petrol automatic because that's actually more similar to the electric than the manual, but I didn't have it to drive. So I'm going to compare the figures for all 3 vehicles. I have the new price here. That's not really relevant. I'm doing this based on owning the car for 3 years, covering 30,000 miles, and then giving it back to Vauxhall. And I've got these prices from Vauxhall. Interesting enough, the interest rate for the electric car is 8.9%, but for the petrol cars, it's 7.9%. So you pay more interest to get the electric car. So £2,000 down, and then 36 months is £601.50 for the electric, and then it's £414.69 for the petrol manual and £467.32 for the petrol auto. That'll be for 36 months. And then servicing over the 3 years and 30,000 miles will be £651 for the electric, so that's cheaper than the petrols because the petrols are £1,077 over 3 years for the manual and £1,070 for the auto. That's interesting. The auto is £7 cheaper to service over 3 years. Not sure why, but that's the truth. That's the figures I got from Vauxhall. Road tax. Well, that's nil for the electric car. Over 3 years for the manual, you're paying £490, and the same for the petrol auto, £490. So total car cost over 3 years, excluding refilling or recharging. For the electric, it's £24,305. For the petrol manual is £18,495, which is £5,809 cheaper than the electric car. And for the petrol auto, it's £20,383, which is £3,921 cheaper than the electric. I'm comparing all cars with the like-for-like trim, so that's the ultimate trim level, the top grade for this Corsa. It's worth noting that I'm not including car insurance in these figures. The cost of car insurance varies greatly from person to person. Now for refueling and recharging. During my time with the electric car on the whole test, I got 4 miles per kilowatt hour. In the petrol manual, I got 45.9 miles per gallon. And for the auto, well, the official Vauxhall literature says it gets about 4% less MPG than the manual. So although I didn't drive the auto, I'm just taking 4% off the figure I got in the manual to come up with 44.1 real world miles per gallon. This is not the book miles per gallon. This is real world what you can actually expect to get, because it's actually usually quite hard to get the figures they quote in the book. Filling up with petrol at the moment, 165 pence per litre. In the petrol manual, that works out at 16.3 pence per mile. And in the petrol auto, that's 16.9 pence per mile. Recharging, a little bit more complicated because the price varies so much. If you can pay 15p per kilowatt hour, that works out at 3.7 pence per mile. If you're using a public slow charger at 49 pence per kilowatt hour, that's 12.2 pence per mile. And if you're using a public rapid charger at 69 pence per kilowatt hour, that's 17.2 pence per mile. Over 3 years and 30,000 miles, you may also need to pay for some tyres, particularly if you get a puncture. But depending on how you drive, it is possible to go 3 years and 30,000 miles on the same set of tyres. It does depend on how you drive. It's unlikely though that you will need to replace the brakes, but if you live in a very mountainous area and do big hills on a regular basis, well then that's different. You may end up replacing the brakes. It all depends on how you drive. However, it's worth noting that electric cars are kinda on their brakes. Brakes on electric cars generally last longer. Now for the total costs over 3 years and 30,000 miles. For the petrol manual, that's £23,385, and for the auto, it's £25,453. Let's look at the electric car. If you're able to pay 15 pence per kilowatt hour and charge it at home throughout the entire ownership of the car for 3 years and 30,000 miles, unlikely, but let's say you did, £25,415. So that's still £2,030 more than the petrol manual, but £38 less than the petrol auto. So you're near enough breaking even there. Slow charging using a public charger at 49 pence per kilowatt hour over the entire time you have the car, 3 years and 30,000 miles, that's £27,965. Over £4,500 more than the petrol manual, and over £2,500 more than the petrol auto. Rapid charging over 3 years and 30,000 miles is going to be £29,465, which is over £6,000 more than the petrol manual and over £4,000 more than the petrol auto. It certainly seems possible to buy a brand new electric car and save money over buying a brand new petrol car that's equivalent. However, you have to keep the car a long time and make full use of cheap electricity, such as a cheap nighttime rate or charging via solar panels during the day, if that's available to you. If you change your car every 3 years or need to charge away from home a lot, then electric cars are more expensive. Now I'm going to break down those prices so that you can see how much it costs per month for each car. All in, over 3 years and 30,000 miles per month, the petrol manual will be costing you £649.60. The petrol auto will be costing you £707.04. Charging at home for 15 pence per kilowatt hour, if you can find that rate. I'm not sure if everyone can get that, but that's just the rate that I have at the moment. It's £705.97, which is actually £1.07 per month cheaper than the petrol auto. But obviously, if petrol prices come down, that would change significantly. Slow charging at a public charger at 49 pence per kilowatt hour. Over 3 years and 30,000 miles per month, that works out at £776.80. And if you're using rapid chargers at 69 pence per kilowatt hour, that's £818.47. If you wanted to keep the car for longer than 3 years and not hand it back, that is an option, but you do have to pay. So for the electric car, it's £15,604. Then the car is yours, no more payments. For the petrol manual, it's £10,395, and for the petrol auto, it's £11,718. One thing is for sure though, if you're buying a brand new petrol car or electric car, it's expensive. Over the last 5 years, the prices of new cars have gone up dramatically, but the reasons behind that is probably a subject for a future video. I'd like to thank Underwood's Vauxhall in Colchester for lending me the two cars so I can do some real world driving to find out what miles per gallon the petrol one does and how many miles per kilowatt hour the electric one does, because relying on the manufacturer's claim figures isn't reliable because they're hard to achieve. I do recommend Underwoods. I use them myself. They look after my Mazda MX-5. Underwoods do Vauxhall, Kia, Skoda and Mazda. And if you're in the area and you fancy one of their cars, why not give one a test drive? If you think the video is interesting, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're looking for car insurance, check out the links to Collingwood and Confused in the description. If you're learning to drive and want to insure yourself on somebody else's car, then Collingwood are there for you, because you can do so without affecting the owner's policy, which takes away a big stress from the owner when you're using their car to learn to drive. Via the links, there's up to 35% off and a £20 Amazon gift card. If you want to insure your own car, I recommend checking out the link to confused.com. You fill out one quote form and get many quotes back to compare who's cheapest. And you can change your car on that quote as many times as you like to compare how much it costs to insure different cars, which is a really useful tool when you're trying to figure out which car you want to buy. Using the links doesn't cost you anything, but it does support the channel, so thank you very much. Subscribe to get my future videos, and until the next one, cheerio.